Welcome, friends, to the Telewellness Hub podcast, a space where listening is not just a simple passive act, it's an act of self-care. I'm your therapist friend, Marta Hamilton, your host, and today we're speaking with a listener favorite, Sandhya Nagabhushan. She's an LPC and owner of Enlightenment Therapy Services and is licensed in Texas and Missouri, offering telehealth in DC, Maryland, Virginia, and Texas. She's a specialist, if you heard in our previously recorded episode, she's a specialist in dating and partner violence. And knowing that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I wanted to unite and amplify her voice as she advocates across the nation through this podcast and very much in those states that she is licensed in the effort to end and heal from domestic violence. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here again today.
Yes, I love connecting. We behind the scenes, we connect on our own meetings. We're planning all kinds of, every time we connect, there's so much synergy in terms of just alignment and wanting to help others and share information. And we just believe in the hope of having thriving lives for others. So it's always wonderful to connect. And this is a tough topic, right? This is a heavy topic, but it's important to talk about. It's important. And I personally haven't met many providers who specialize in this area. So when we recorded our first episode and it came up that you have a background in this, we talked about doing a follow-up episode, and I'm so grateful that you're sharing your time. I want to start with asking, why do you do the wellness work that you do specifically within this realm of partner or intimate partner violence?
Thank you so much for that introduction and for kind of summarizing my passion and my kind of fervor for helping people in this setting. I'll get started with saying a little bit about my own personal journey and why I do the wellness work with intimate partner violence and domestic violence in general. As an undergrad student in Maryland, I often did an internship where I volunteered at a family crisis resource center. And that really opened up my eyes and gave me a very jarring but humbling experience to be an intern at this family crisis resource center. I worked with survivors of intimate partner dating violence, gender based violence, stalking, and it was a very humbling experience. I realized there's so much more work we need to do in this realm,
Mm-hmm.
and having it be Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I think it's so important for us to bring enlightenment, education, and advocacy to all people of all identities and constructs to understand that this is a really big issue, and we really need to educate, promote, and help survivors heal. And that's really why I specifically wanted to talk today with you about this particular topic, being that it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month and bringing awareness and education and advocacy all around the U.S. and in the world.
Yeah, no, it's a very important topic. And knowing that background that you had, I'm sure it must have been really eye-opening. I mean, you had firsthand experiences in learning from others' experiences and seeing the healing. And I think that's something that's really important in this advocacy work and education work that you're doing too, is because being a therapist is such a privilege. I tell people it's such an honor to walk through life with other people and to support them and just be that safe space, right? And I'm sure, have seen just incredible transformation and healing. And I think that's important to highlight in bringing awareness this month to that there is this other side of healing and hope, and you've gotten to witness this firsthand. So that's why, I just got chills just sharing that, because I think that's important for someone listening who may have experienced some form of dating or partner violence, or know someone, that there's that hope that things can get better, and that and getting to hear from you firsthand how that is an experience that can happen, that you can grow, that you can thrive, that you can heal. I think that's a really important message to share. And I want to back up a little bit. I wanted to ask a little bit about, what is dating or partner violence. Let's back up, because we hear a lot of different terms: domestic violence, dating or partner violence. I really, from your perspective as a therapist, and again, for those listeners, we always have this disclaimer, you're not the listener's therapist, even though we're therapists, right? We're not giving specific therapeutic advice, but just really want to share and bring awareness. What is dating or partner violence?
Excellent question. So I will start off by saying it can look very different in different relationships. In general, dating partner violence tends to be about having control or
Mm,
power over the other partner.
mhm,
The partner relationship could be a romantic relationship, it could be a cohabiting relationship, it could be
mm,
a friendship that evolves into a romantic relationship. It does not have, there's not one fits all kind of thing.
mhm,
And so, what I wanted to really emphasize here is that it's a matter of a person in the intimate partner of dating violence having control or power over the other
mm,
person.
mhm,
And what does that look like? That could look like coercive ways to manipulate that other person, withholding intimacy, emotional intimacy,
mm,
or physical intimacy. That could look like insults in public in front of their loved ones. That could be continuous berating or gaslighting of the other partner. And I want to emphasize, I think it's really important, Marta, as you mentioned, that it's not gender-based violence and intimate partner dating violence is not does not just occur with women or with men or with
yes.
any identity. It could be LGBTQ communities. It could be women against men against women. I want to make sure we're really mindful and
Mhm,
inclusive here. That according to the statistics, men are also survivors
mhm.
of intimate partner dating violence. Women are survivors, and we have to really be mindful of the language that we use and understand that it can go both
Mhm.
ways.
Mhm. No, that's such an important thing to bring up because I think sometimes there are misconceptions and that can be harmful in terms of people seeking help or sharing from
Sure.
the research that that I've seen that people feel like well, is this do I don't want to say in the research I've heard people disclose that maybe they didn't share or disclose or seek help or report, right? When the violence may have been considered a crime because they almost felt like who's going to believe me if I don't fit this picture of what it looks like. And so I'm really glad that you bring that awareness and mention that because when it comes to who can be a victim of dating and partner violence and who commits the dating partner violence, I think there is a lot there. And in terms of your experience, your expertise, um, what would you share about that in terms of that maybe misconception and in reality and based on research and based on the actual experiences who can be a victim and who commits dating partner violence.
Absolutely. So when I continued on this kind of personal mission or goal of mine to become a therapist and help survivors of intimate partner of dating violence, stalking, as well as the whole gamut of what is inclusive in sexual violence and physical violence. So as a humble therapist, I finished my role at undergrad at the survivors for shelter at the I was a intern for
Mhm.
survivors of intimate partner dating violence, and then I continued with my work at George Mason, where I did my graduate school work to become a sexual assault services advocate.
Oh,
Now
wow.
that role really opened up my eyes. It was a humbling experience again. Part of that role was I was the first line in command with other colleagues that were trained by professionals to treat survivors. We were the
Wow.
first people that they would contact on campus. Literally, someone could be leaving a party and had just been
Oh my
assaulted,
gosh. Wow.
and imagine the magnitude of just the desperation for help at that point and who to
Absolutely.
go to, who do we talk to, what do we say, and always being mindful that it takes a lot of courage to speak up. It takes a lot of courage,
100%.
um,
Mhm.
and that they need to know that they're not alone
Yes.
in any space, that there's somewhere that they can go to for support. Every college campus has resources of their own, and I'll speak to the role that I was in at George Mason. Again, we would hear from all different walks of life. There's no assumptions to be made here.
Mhm.
Anyone could be a survivor. I want to emphasize that. And anyone could experience dating violence. And it looks different from one relationship to the next.
Mhm.
And it was very eye opening. It was a very humbling experience. And it kind of forged my way to really want to bring more awareness and education to this topic.
Mhm.
Um, I did have to escort survivors after a sexual assault and bring them to medical settings to be
Wow.
examined. And that was really tough work.
Yes.
But to be an advocate for them, to stand by their side, hold their hand,
100%. To
um,
be an ally, to be a
and
support, to be
yes,
walk
it,
with
it was
them. Yes.
it was actually really very groundbreaking to have experienced that and have to be honored to be in that humble role to where I can assist people. I also was a court advocate. So what did that look like? As you mentioned, Marta, some people do not want to report it, and
Mhm.
that's fully up to the person to decide whether they want to report it or not.
Mhm.
And we must respect their position on that
Mm.
because, as we know, with dating violence, there in some situations there could be retaliation.
Yes.
There could be and not to minimize the survivor's impact on their psychological health, right? That's so key there. I want to emphasize that. So I was also an advocate to help them with their court hearings, um, assist them to medical appointments, and also be a bridge between law enforcement and the people that are seeking to get to report others.
Mm.
But bringing it back to the campus role I was in, it was really all walks of life, and that's what I want to really just say is never make any assumptions about who could be a survivor or who could be a perpetrator for that matter.
Yeah.
Statistics show that dating violence can occur by um, someone that and on a someone that they knew in a dating context. It could have been someone that they broke up with, someone that they
Mm.
endured a relationship with, or any kind of intimacy, whether it's emotional or physical intimacy. It could have been any type of relationship, and sometimes that evolves into an unhealthy,
Mm.
toxic
Mhm.
dynamic. And that's where it can get scary, right? And you're talking about college aged students who are just developing their prefrontal
Yeah.
cortex and developing that area of the brain. Imagine the impact of these survivors
Oh,
and how
wow.
strong they are
Yes.
and resilient and powerful their voices are to speak up in that setting.
Yes. I love the way you frame that. You said, imagine how
Thank
powerful and how resilient. I think that's so important to highlight because it's confusing. I think people don't realize how confusing the experience can be, and to be strong and powerful, to walk through it, to reach out, to, I'm just imagining that experience. And, I've never disclosed this before, but I have had to go and try to obtain a protective order before. So obviously every case is unique, and every situation is individualized, but it's very it can be surreal depending on the experience, to just go to someone and say, I need protection. Just that identification of like, I didn't feel safe, or I want to feel safe. I think that's really it's a really powerful experience in the sense that it alters you. So I think bringing up that point that you're in if you're in a college campus, your brain is developing, and navigating through that, to come out of it feeling empowered and resilient. I love that you highlighted that, because as you mentioned, you gave some scenarios. Dating or partner violence can look very different, right? So if you don't mind describing just a little bit about like what does dating or partner violence look like? You gave a little bit of some information there, but I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about that and what it might look like.
Yes, and thank you for being so
Yeah.
vulnerable and sharing that. I really appreciate that because that's the way we get other people to speak
Yeah.
up and not have to feel any which way, any shame or any. It really means a lot that you shared
Yeah,
that
well,
because I
thanks.
think
Yeah, I
it humanizes all of us, is
yeah,
what I'm
it
saying.
can happen to anyone at any point, and I remember so many questions like, "How did I let this happen to me?" Like, "How
Mhm.
did" right? Like, "How did this happen?" And so, I can tell you this, you're right, as a therapist, even therapists, like, it's a human experience to walk through life and face different challenges that can come up, but with amazing helpers like you. I mean, I could imagine how wonderful it would have been like if I could have had you in my corner, right? To like guide me through it, to support me through it, to walk with me and the legal matters, right? Like no one ever imagine you don't get like a guidebook of like if you ever need to get a protective order or like this is how you go. All of a sudden you're like, what do I do now? What happens? So um I think it's amazing that there are lights in the world like you to shine a light in a dark time, dark space. So, um, it's easy
Thank
to
you.
share with you, right? So, and I'm hoping somebody will hear this and yeah, feel empowered. So, and in terms of that, kind of what does it look like? You brought up a really good point that it can evolve, and that's something you mentioned. So, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit more about what you've seen.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, many people have heard of the walking on eggshells
Mhm.
stage. So, what I'm referring to is often in a dating partnership, that's where it's toxic or unhealthy, or there's a power dynamic involved there where one partner is exhibiting control or power over the other uh, partner. Um, there's the honeymoon stage. There's the you are my
Mhm.
everything. Maybe a little bit of love
Mhm.
bombing there, or a little bit of, you mean so much to me. Don't ever leave me. Like isolating the person
Mhm.
from their friends, from their loved ones, from their classes. Just really isolating the person to where they feel like their end all be all is with their romantic partner.
Mhm.
And through that stage, it evolves to a breakout, so an eruption in some kind of violence, whether it be emotional violence, psychological violence, sexual violence, and the survivor is in shock, is confused, is disoriented, is often left with this, I love this person,
Mhm.
but what do I do? This is not healthy.
Mhm.
And then it goes to the romance phase again, where the other partner kind of uh, woos the person back in. It was just a mistake. I didn't mean to. It won't happen again. Um, Behaviors like that are exhibited, and that's the walking on eggshells phase again. So looking at the cycle of abuse is what I'm
Mm,
referring to there,
mhm.
the cycle of that abuse, and how it plays out in relationships, partnered relationships. um, and it takes so much to even speak on these topics.
Yeah.
It really does. It takes so much resilience is the right word, I would say, like you mentioned, but it takes so much bravery, courage, and as you mentioned, maybe this one line we both shared today could impact another survivor or another person that's experiencing some form of dating violence. And there's no cookie cutter way
Mhm.
to treat it. There's no cookie cutter way to define it.
Yeah.
Each situation is different in itself, and recognizing that we all have the power to overcome it, and we all have
Mhm.
the power to heal,
Mhm.
um, is so important.
Mhm. You mentioned stalking in your previous episode, and
Yeah,
I'm just curious to hear more about that specifically because we don't. My mind didn't go to thinking about stalking when it came to Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but I think
sure.
that's a very important thing to just briefly discuss in terms of any information that you can give us in terms of what that looks like, and the hope for people experiencing it. I know that you shared that the majority of women, 81%, you gave me the statistic, who experience stalking also experience physical violence.
Mm.
So I'm just curious if you could share a little bit more about what it would look like to bring awareness to this component, right? You said it's no nothing is cookie cutter. There's not one definition. Every situation and every case and every person's experience is unique, but anything you want to share in terms of insight when it comes to the stalking, coping with the stalking, getting help for the stalking, and the courage within the stalking.
Thank you. Stalking is a huge component of
Mhm.
of what we're talking about today. And now in the world we live in, albeit
Oh,
online,
yeah.
social media, it is what it is. You have to accept the fact that people are can stalk in the cyber world,
Yeah,
online
you're so
social
right.
media platforms, and it creates so much cognitive dissonance
Mhm,
there because you have people talk about, um, well, I unfollowed this person on my Instagram,
mhm,
or I
mhm.
unfollowed this person on my social media, and he won't leave me alone. He won't stop looking at my feeds. He won't stop looking
Right.
at my. That's just one component, and this, Marta. I'm so glad you brought up that point. Um, this is really a huge part of what dating violence and specifically stalking can look like. It's
Mm,
cyber stalking.
yeah,
Um, and everything these days is in the social media role. And as a therapist, I try to tell my clients, or not tell, but encourage my
mhm,
clients to maybe take a break from social media
mhm.
here and
Yep.
there, unplug, do a like a self healing journey on
Yes.
social media, if you will, because um, along with stalking, there's cyberbullying, there's cyber stalking. Um, but to specifically answer your question, what does it look like, and in what context are women experiencing stalking? I had a one very sweet and very strong, as we all are, um, young adult woman at George Mason who was experiencing stalking to a very serious degree, to the point where she would be looking behind her shoulders to see if he's following
Mm.
her to her classes. She would be checking her car, and he would be leaving her messages on her car.
Oh,
And she felt so, I mean, the amount of fear this person had induced into her and had scared her. And she didn't know who to turn
yeah.
to. She didn't know who to talk to about it. She thought people wouldn't believe
Mm,
her. This is someone that she was involved with for throughout her whole college experience. How could he be doing this to
mm.
her? Going to what your point is, those preconceived notions, or this misnomers, or this misunderstandings, or myths
Yes.
about stalking,
Yes.
those myths that arise there. And it's rampant. It can happen in any context, in any place, in any setting. Social media is just as powerful as a tool as it can be misplaced sometimes.
Yes.
I think would be the right word.
Yes.
I welcome your feedback on that,
Yeah,
Marta.
that's
If
such
you
a good way to say it, misplaced, because there's so much amazing opportunity within technology and the ability to connect. But I could absolutely see, and as a therapist, I myself would also recommend a break from social media. I almost call it like a social media cleanse, right? Like, how can we
detox.
detox from the social media? And it does give an opportunity to nurture yourself. And there is a vulnerability, right, with social media. And especially for someone who may be needing to truly heal and feel safe and feel empowered, and came from a very vulnerable situation, where they were a victim. Especially, I think it's such an important thing to highlight the social media, the technological aspect. I hadn't even considered that when asking. Yes, but I could see how that is huge on so many layers there. So I'm so glad that you bring that up. And my last question for you, really, for this is, you've done such an amazing job at kind of giving us an overview and bringing an awareness and humanizing it, right? Like, this is okay to talk about it. Even you sharing this lets me know, you have clients that you welcome, you encourage. Let's talk about this. Let's heal. And you're so easy to talk to. I'm even disclosing things I haven't shared with other people, but I think it's important to talk about and bring awareness to it. And what would you recommend in terms of what insight, what encouragement would you say to someone if they know someone who is a victim, or if they themselves are a victim of dating or partner violence? What can they do what kind of encouragement could you provide them?
I love that you phrased it that way because that elicits the fact that there's the bystander effect that often that can occur. And what is the bystander effect? Is when you're in a setting and you see something
Mm,
clearly
mhm,
that is coercive, manipulative, uh, dangerous to another person or another identity or construct. And what do we do? Do we take a bystander effect and see it happen and not get involved out of many reasons for fear of
mhm,
putting themselves in a compromising place or getting in trouble themselves. So, specifically, I would say if you know anyone, if you know a friend of a friend, if you know a person, an identity of any type that's believes or thinks they're they're in a relationship or an intimate partner relationship that has toxic traits or just not healthy and
mm,
it can
mhm.
grow into a domestic violence
Yes.
situation, please reach out to them, tell them their support. You can reach out to 1-800-799-SAFE. That's the domestic violence hotline.
Mm,
They have trained clinicians, trained providers that are there to support you at any point in time, 24 hours a day. And it's safe, it's anonymous.
mm,
It's there for our for everyone to take advantage of to develop a safety plan with them because I want to mention that Marta, like sometimes it's not easy to leave these relationships, you
mm,
know, it's not, and we should never question
mm.
the survivor,
Yes.
never question them until you walk into the shoes of someone who's going through it or have been a survivor yourself or
Mhm.
have experienced it with your friends, families, loved
Yes,
ones. There's never a place or room to judge someone. I want to make that clear.
absolutely.
Um,
Yes.
and to give them the space to speak up about it and raise awareness and advocacy. But definitely develop a safety plan, which will look a little bit like working with a team of clinicians or calling the hotline and asking for a way to develop a safety plan so that they can have an exit strategy when things are becoming violent. And just if I could just thank you so much again for
Mm.
allowing us to bring this platform to the public because it is Domestic Violence Awareness
Mhm.
Month. It's not uncommon to say you or someone you know have been a survivor of this issue, and
Yes.
it's important to bring as much awareness, advocacy, and education to stop that cycle and to let people heal and have that opportunity to heal.
Oh my gosh. No, Sandhya, thank you so much for your time and expertise and sharing just with the on a public forum, being able to share resources and information and awareness and ways that we can all be an ally, right? To really
Yes.
support and advocate. And I'll make sure to write the phone number that you provided and your contact information in the show notes because um, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about how people can best reach you and in which states.
Thank you so
Mhm.
much. I always appreciate you
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
I actually am working with clients in Texas. You're in San Antonio, I believe,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yes.
Oh yes, we're both Texas.
Yes. Texas. Texas, yeah.
um, that's how we get so connected, I
Yeah.
think. So I work with clients in telemedicine, telehealth visits in Texas, Maryland, Virginia, and DC.
Mhm.
I'm a certified substance abuse specialist as well as a trauma informed
Yes.
therapist. So I love to do EMDR, just trauma work is my bread and butter.
Mm.
And of course, I welcome clients of all different backgrounds, walks of life, faiths, and identities.
Oh,
And I thank you so much for having this platform to speak on these topics. You really are. We as a team here
yes.
are trying to make a huge difference, and I appreciate your time,
Oh,
Marta.
I appreciate yours as well, and thank you so much for being a part of our wellness journey today.
Thank you.